Hello and a huge welcome back. You're with Kelbell. Today I'm sharing with you what I would do differently if I was teaching in the classroom community and family studies right now in 2024. Now, I started teaching CAFs way back in 2004 as a very fresh failed. I was given the syllabus and a textbook and I was like, off you go, Kel. I trust you. You're going to nail it. You'll be okay. And look, Karen Tillman, my coordinator back at Nagel, when I was very, very young, put all of that trust into me. And I feel so blessed that I had her support for over 14 years as a classroom PDHP and CAFS teacher. But that was literally a lifetime ago, 20 years ago. I'm definitely feeling the pinch. And this face might look a bit older than what I did when I was in my 20s. So today, I'm sharing with you things that lots of CAFS teachers email me about, things that I get direct messages about, things that you message me on Facebook and Instagram. And these are things that I have continued to share, especially over the last 10 or 12 years, and things that I wish I did right from the very beginning in CAFS. So grab a pen and paper. It is going to be a very practical episode. And look, if you have any questions, of course, please don't hesitate to reach out via Instagram or Facebook. Send me a message and I'll be all the more happy to answer your questions about what I'm sharing today. So the first one, and look, I'll preface this with I shared my CAFS recipe to success when I first left the classroom. And I kind of wanted to encapsulate what I thought the recipe to success was in CAFS. And you might remember, if you've been around for a while, let me know if that's you, send me a message, that I brought out these recipe cards. They looked, I think they had pink and aqua on them, as are still my brand colors. But I brought those out and I would share those on Facebook and Instagram. And I then made our acronyms look like that and our glossary of keywords cards look like this. But I think I've really firmed up what those key ingredients are. And I'm going to share with you 7 key ingredients to what I think makes a really good CAFS classroom. And it all comes under the acronym of EMPOWER. So I'm going to empower you with what you can do to really make a big impact with your kids, but also to save a whole heap of time for yourself when you're teaching, when you're preparing. So let's jump in. Write down the word empower because that's what we're going to cover in our acronym. The first one, the E, stands for explicit knowledge and understanding of the syllabus. Now, I really want to emphasize with you the idea of that understanding more than the knowledge. The knowledge is that surface level understanding or ideas, that content knowledge. The kids might be able to regurgitate an acronym. They might be able to spill off the 6 factors that affect wellbeing. They might be able to talk about some examples when we look at social parents. But they don't really understand that content. They're just providing that content at a surface level. Now, I've been in your shoes. Like when I first started teaching CAFS, for probably the first 6 or 7 years, I was very much teaching at a surface level. I would stand at the front of the room and I would deliver and lecture to my kids like that old sage on a stage. I was the bearer of all knowledge and I would have the textbook out. The textbook was my Bible and I would take that home every afternoon and made sure I read it and was prepared for the next day. My lessons were really boring because I spoke at the kids for a whole hour. And I might have included some examples that I could think of off the cuff, but I was very unprepared. In my second year of teaching, in my first HSC year, I remember being in our classroom. It was quite dingy. It was quite dark. We had those old school flip tables and the kids were sitting in, I think in twos at that point. And it was very much one-on-one kind of thing. It wasn't very effective. I would talk at the kids for nearly an hour. And look, I didn't know how to teach back then. University only teaches you a very small, minute part of how you should teach or what you should teach. So this is coming from a very good place because I've been in your shoes. And even if you're a veteran or very experienced CAFS teacher, hopefully I can kind of re-emphasize some of the things I've been sharing. But the first one is about explicit knowledge and understanding. Now, what does that look like on the ground? It's all well and good for me to share with you. Okay, you have to be more explicit, but what that might look like in the classroom. So instead of me standing up with my notes and the textbook and talking at the kids, what I started to realize was that I actually needed to bring this to life. I needed to bring examples from outside of our bubble in Blacktown, outside of Nagle College, or outside of my own experience. I started to expose the kids to lots of different examples from our community, things that were happening in and around Blacktown and Western Sydney. So rather than when I first started teaching CAFs, because I heard and thought that you should watch things like Castaway, I think some of these ideas are in the textbook as well. Start to watch Mean Girls as a movie, start to watch some, really Americanized, documentaries and movies and that type of thing. Instead, what I did start to do was look outside the box and think about what was happening in my context, things that the kids could connect to in our community. So, for example, we're in Western Sydney, Blacktown. I started to look at services in our local area, things like McKillop Family Services at Blacktown. So I introduced that to them in year 11. And then that was part of like one of our community organisations in resource management. I then started to talk about that when we looked at families and communities. Then I spoke about that again in year 12 when we looked at parenting and caring. We then also did I suppose, more of a practical activity where in groups in context, we would kind of use that same service, but repurposed it. And we used that to talk about homeless people. And we created like a hamper. The kids brought in some toiletries and sanitary items over the weeks of groups in context. And then we delivered those baskets to McKillop Family Services. I'm pretty sure there might be a photo lingering somewhere in social media that I will try to find. But it was that kind of thing. We brought it to life. We brought that service to life because it sat within our community. What else did we do? We also did Vinnie's van. So a lot of the kids I did my Vinnie's van training, probably in the early 2000s. And then I started to take my CAFS kids to Vinnie's van. So we went to Parramatta. We also did a run to Penrith. And so the kids who were in CAFS in my classes started to become exposed to that service. They started to realise what that service was really about, what they actually did, how they advocated for the group. Obviously, as the syllabus changed, we tweaked it, changed it, what that group does to give back to the community, all those sorts of things. So it really exposed the kids to concrete examples from our own community, which could then bring that to life. In terms of other practical things we did in class, rather than just regurgitating the notes, I remember when I was on maternity leave in 2015, I asked to come back a term early. Like I shouldn't really have done that. I should have just had that, maxed out my leave, but I didn't. I came back, so I wanted to teach you 12 that term, as you do. And I had this class. They didn't know me from a bar of soap. I had 2.5 years off with Cass, our eldest. And I came back and, this would have been with our youngest. So this would have been with Lex, came back and I had a HSC class and they didn't know me very well because I hadn't really taken them for juniors or anything. And this one girl, I remember standing at the front, kind of trying to get the kids to, apply their understanding with a table and ideas. And this one girl put her hand up and I said, "Oh, yes, Josephine." And she said, "We just want the notes." I said, "Pardon?" And she's like, "Miss, we just want the notes." And I was like, "All right, interesting." And I then, piped up and said, and I had done HSC marking for, that would have been my 7th or 8th year. I was a senior marker by that point. And I said, "Look, Josephine, I can give you the notes, but it's not about the notes. It's about you bringing your understanding to life. It's that practical application of content. I can sit here and give you the notes. I've got the notes, but you're not learning like that. It's just regurgitation." So she really got her back up and it was a bit of a heated argument. And the subsequent lessons after that were quite heated because I was standing firm to say, look, trust me, trust my expertise, trust my experience, everything that's happened at HSC marking. I know that the kids who go beyond the notes are getting the good marks. I know the kids who are going beyond the notes are the ones who are showing me in their answers that they know their stuff. So if you're looking for practical applications to the course, we're talking about scenarios, case studies, application, getting the kids up and moving, some cards to express their understanding, maybe getting the kids to do like a 4 corners where you put a statement on the board and you get them to respond to that statement or that statistic, and then say, okay, if you agree with this, go to the back corner. If you disagree, go over there, and kind of have that direction. Maybe some matching cards that match maybe a scenario with the most significant needs for that group, or maybe that match some content with some statistics for groups in context. You get my drift, hopefully. So those practical activities get the kids up and moving. It's not just those notes. It's not just death by PowerPoint or Google Slides. And quite a few of our members inside the CAFS Collective have asked me, do you have any PowerPoints for this? And I'm like, no, I actually don't believe in PowerPoints. I believe PowerPoints are good to, if the kids are presenting like a key idea, or if I want to capture their attention. But my teaching, the learning that happened in the classroom wasn't about a Google slide or PowerPoint. So yes, in the beginning, I did do that. That was like my safety blanket, because I was only one step ahead of the kids, one day ahead of the kids the night before, but really bringing it to life through practical application. And I know that takes time. It takes so much time to think of the idea, first of all, and then to apply it and bring it to life. So if you are looking for some of those sorts of ideas, inside our CAFS Collective membership, we have mountains and mountains of mountains. This is our going to our 4th year of the membership. So we will and truly have lots of ideas, and we continue to build on that. So I ask our members, like, what do you guys want for this term? I don't kind of, preempt it. I create it based on the needs and the wants of our members. So if you're looking for something that gives you practical ideas and applications and really practical kind of teaching and learning activities, the CAFS Collective is the perfect way to find that. Okay, so that's number one. That was a long drawn out version of that. So Empower, for Empower. The next one in Empower is the meaning and, again, application of the glossary of keywords. Now, I'll get on my high horse right now and talk about this. And this came from all of my experience at HSC marking. So I first started HSC marking, I think 2006. And look, I was only very new to teaching CAFS, very new to teaching, but somehow I thought it was a really good idea to apply for marking. And back then that was like the 3rd or 4th year of the HSC for CAFS. And so there weren't very many markers around. So I put my hand up, put my application in, and I got accepted. I was like, wow, this is awesome. This is like only my 2nd year of doing the HSC, my 3rd year of teaching, but I got HSC marking. And I really think, hand on heart, it was from that day that really opened my eyes up to what it was really like. Because we had already had all those life management teachers teaching our CAFS concepts. But of course, then connecting with them and bouncing ideas off each other at marking really exposed me to what it was like and what success looked like in the CAFS classroom, and then on paper, how the kids were writing, and all the gaps in my own understanding, my own application of the course really brought it to life. In terms of the glossary, I realized that I wasn't actually teaching these words explicitly to the kids. I kind of knew they were in the syllabus, but I didn't realize how important they were. The first year, probably the first 2 years, I don't think I actually taught the kids how to explain, how to analyze something, how to evaluate something, how to discuss it. Like, it was in the syllabus, but I thought, oh, that's just a word. Like, it just means the same thing. Kel got to HSC marking in her 2nd HSC year in 2006 and went, okay, all right, some of these kids, I need to be working on this. And my love of the glossary and understanding and application of the glossary has seen a big shift over the years. So, of course, as soon as I did HSC marking, I was like, okay, we're doing this right. So the year before that, I had the big, big fluoro letters that spelt out CAFs at the back of my classroom. I had them laminated, and I thought that was enough, that just by putting them there, the kids would actually learn them. Just placing them there did nothing. I actually had to teach the kids explicitly. So over the years, I realized that each word meant something different. Like explain means cause and effect. There's a cause, like there's a reason for that happening, and there's an impact or an effect on that thing. I then need to use words to show the marker and to prove to the marker I'm actually doing that word. That's why it's called the verbs, the Nessa verbs, the bossy verbs back in the day. They are doing words. The glossary of keywords or the Nessa verbs are doing words. Key terms, whatever you want to call them, they're all the same thing. The kids have to do something with them. They completely change the answer, the nature of the answer, and even the question when the kids are actually applying them. So it's not just about knowing what they are and knowing the difference between them. It's actually showing the marker and demonstrating to the marker what that actually looks like. And for you as a CAFS teacher, even as a senior teacher, PDHP and HMS next year, it's actually breaking each of those words down, showing the kids, them becoming familiar with it, then them really realizing that to explain is very different to discuss, and your whole answer is going to look very different when you do different words. So scaffolding it, explicitly teaching it to the kids and modeling it to them, demonstrating it to the kids. And even my experienced CAFS teachers in our CAFS Collective membership, or who have been in the membership for quite some time, since the beginning, my OGs, there are quite a few, about 20 teachers who have been there from the beginning, they still say to me, like, exemplars, I just want some exemplars, Kel. What does it look like? Like, how does that word really change that question? I really think, and if you've heard me talk about this before, I really think it makes the most difference. I'm going to say most difference with an answer, because the kids really know the content, but the content will only get them halfway. So if we've got an 8 marker in the HSC or in the Year 11 exam or in an assessment task, and if the kids only kind of just provide content, they don't actually address the word, the glossary of keyword, they're probably only going to get about 4 or 5. Now you're probably thinking, okay, well, they've got the content down. Like, surely this doesn't make a big impact. It does. That's where the high order thinking is. That's where those higher order skills are, to actually get the kids to apply it in a different way or in a different context. So again, I know that you guys are time poor, and I know that there is only so many hours in a day. So I have your back. This has been my go-to for many years. And when I first left the classroom, I was like, I want everyone across New South Wales as a PDHPE and CAFS teacher to know the significance of these. So if you're looking for practical resources inside our CAFS Collective membership, the members in there say that, hands down, the practical resources are the most valuable part of the membership. Yes, it's great to have access to me and ask questions and pick my brain and ask members different questions, but the resources that I help you, that I kind of, present to you on a silver platter, are the biggest difference makers inside the membership. Okay, so we have M, meaning and application of the glossary of keywords. P stands for our peel paragraph structure, to make sure we're kind of answering our questions. Now, I know most of you are pretty good with this already, but just a little friendly reminder that when you get the kids to build on their paragraph structure, it can really set them up for success. It's really easy for them to then talk about ideas and answer really succinctly when they have a clear structure to their answer. So if you're not teaching peel, if you're looking at teal or seal or sexy, whatever acronym you're using to get the kids to write a paragraph, it's really important to start from year 7. It became really apparent for me when I taught 3 Year 11 classes back in 2020. I was given this beautiful group of kids. I went from being the relieving head teacher to a full teaching load. That's a whole nother story. And I had 3 really beautiful CAFS classes. I loved them. I really loved it because I was able to tweak and change things as I went. So I'd present one class with the content, dot by point. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to even up it for the next lesson. And then the third lesson was like, yes, I've got this. This is like second nature. And I realized for those kids, because they came from a middle campus, they didn't have seniors all the way through. It was part of a collegiate. I realized there was a massive gap in their paragraphing, massive gap in their literacy. So we went like back to square one, showed them what peel was, broke it down. You have to have a clear point here. Let's practice that. Okay, you have to then expand on that point. Okay, let's do that. Let's practice that in class. Let's get our highlighters out. Let's highlight that. Then let's give some examples to show the marker you're actually nailing that answer, and then make sure you bring it all tight together. A nice little bow and bring it all back together by using that link. So look, peel paragraph is my 101, but teaching it from year 7 is really important. Again, when you get your new class in year 11, just making sure the kids actually have that down pat. And I reckon I spent the first four to 5 lessons really making sure the kids could actually write a paragraph before we really did, heaps and heaps of content. Okay, the next one for empower is O. Now, I included this because I really think it's a game changer, and that's making sure our option structure is actually developed. So when I first started teaching CAFS, the option was all over the shop because it's still only worth 25% of our exam, of our content, but that 15 marker is the absolute game changer of our course. If the kids don't nail that 15 marker, I think, this is my personal opinion, but also based on evidence, I think it has a really significant impact on what band they achieve and what mark they get. That can really make or break the kids. I've seen, my 16 years as a HSC marker, 5 years as a supervisor of marker, which is like the head HSC marker in New South Wales. Like I was, the boss of marking for 5 years. Not the boss, the leader, I should say, of HSC marking. And I saw that the kids they either knew it or they didn't, but you could see the gaps in what was happening at school and the responses that we were marking of where the teachers knew what to do in terms of structure and the teachers that didn't. The kids need to have a very clear structure for that 15 marker. It's 15 marks. It's a lot. It's like an essay. And if the kids don't nail that structure, they're probably only sitting at a 7 or an 8, half marks, half of what they should be doing. So this kind of stemmed from 2 things. So the first light bulb moment for me was a couple of kids early on into the piece. They didn't finish their HSC because they left it to last. They left the option to last. I actually say to all of the students that I work with in our master classes, I say it to our CAFS Collective members, start with the option, get it out of the way, quickly do multiple choice, just to warm up, just to get your head in the game, start with the option. And then, you kind of are under less pressure if you don't finish the rest of the paper, because even though it's 25 marks, it does eat up, a lot of time. 45 minutes is a recommendation time that you should be spending on that 15 mark, the 25 marks. So it's a long time, about 25 minutes for the option part C, the 15 marker. So the kids have to nail it. They have to get it, they have to get into that 12, 13 to really get a band 5 or 6, I think. Because the kids aren't doing it still. Like I haven't done HSC marking for the last 12 months. I finished in 2022. But I know the kids actually, they need to make sure they're doing it. So the option, the structure of it is really important. So having that clear introduction, having a number of peel paragraphs to address the content, There are multiple aspects of the content in that 15 marker. And then, of course, finishing on a conclusion. It's massive. It's like 4 to 6 booklet pages. So the booklets that the kids get, it's 4 to 6 of those. It's very lengthy. It's not just a couple of pages long and go, yep, sweet, I've got the 15 marks. It is a lot. The kids have to practice this. And I think the biggest mistake that I made when I was teaching was that I didn't expose this to my year 11s. I didn't even do this once, to be honest. That's really poor form, Kel. And I share this with our CAFS Collective members, that you have to teach your kids that clear structure for the option from day dot of year 11. You can't just wait for that trial for them to practice it. The amount of schools that I see that don't assess the option drives me nuts. We're not setting the kids up for success because we're not providing them with enough practice to hit that 15 marker, for the trial and the HSC. So the structure's there, giving the kids enough time to practice, making sure we assess an assessment task on that. Look, I could go on and on and on about this. And of course, inside our CAFS Collective membership, we talk about this a lot. There are a number of masterclasses that we've done about structure, number of resources that I've popped into our library, our portal, our online portal, our resource portal for teachers to access, like activities and cards and scaffolds and exemplars, sample answers to help everyone, because it's still a massive issue. The kids are still not nailing it. Okay, enough about the option for a little second in terms of structure. The W in Empower stands for wellbeing is embedded. So wellbeing is embedded through all of our course. It's a really significant part of our course. That's why we start with that as that main concept, that in life, if you have a good balance of, your physical health, your emotional and mental health, things are, happening well for you in terms of spiritual connections and that sense of purpose, and you have, you understand your beliefs and your values and your culture, you're able to interact and communicate effectively, you have a good, broad range of friends. That's our balance of our well-being. If all those things are happening for us well, then we have a good sense of well-being, and our well-being is enhanced. So in terms of well-being, we start it from year 11, and I think many of us sprinkle it through our course, in bits and pieces. And I think the kids are still leaving lots of marks on the table in the option for Part C, because they need to bring their answer back to that. Now, we're going to go down a quick rabbit hole with that. So for the option for Part C, there's a rubric in the exam that talks about interrelationship with wellbeing, the impact of wellbeing. The kids have to talk about wellbeing for their option. So no matter what the three options, they have to, and no matter what the question is, they have to link back to wellbeing in their answer. There are still many, many schools and many, many teachers across New South Wales that aren't doing this. Our CAFS Collective members know by now that they have to do this. The kids do it, they practice it, they start from year 11, they have an assessment task that looks at this structure, and then they embed it. And there's activities, again, in our membership that help people do that. But there are a big chunk of CAFS teachers out there who are still not getting the kids to embed wellbeing for their Part C. You just simply don't know. And I didn't know it either. I didn't know about this until I did HSC marking. And when I was in my first year as as a senior marker, so like a team leader, like a head teacher of marking, you're in charge of like a small team. I was on the option for quite a few years, I think about 4 years. And I didn't realize how important that 15 marker structure was until I did that. And then, of course, the importance of wellbeing. So I spent a lot of my time, that would have been 6 years teaching CAFS, not realizing how important that wellbeing was for the 15 marker to get into those higher marks, the 11s, 12s, 13s, 14s, and 15s. And a lot of my marks really kind of stayed at that 9 to 10 range. The kids could write really well. They knew the content, but their structure was lacking, and certainly the idea of wellbeing was not in there. Again, for the sake of today, if you want some strategies, if you want some clear practical applications of that, what it looks like, of course, in our CAFS Collective membership, we have all of that covered. Okay, the E of empower stands for examples. So we know how important examples are. It brings the answer to life. It makes sure we kind of hit that, those ideas. We have evidence of that learning. That's what that application is. But we have another acronym that I'll quickly share with you, and that's the idea of suave. So our examples are quite suave. And what I mean by that is that they're very specific, they're unique, they stand out from the crowd, they're very different to what the marker would read from one page to the next. There's variety in their answer, that's the V. What are we up to? Or A, they're applied, so they actually show and prove to the marker that they actually know their stuff. And they're very explicit. So not just like, I don't know, if we look at organizations in the community, we could kind of say charitable organizations. Okay, that's great, but be more specific. You could then go St. Vinny's, which is a perfect example, but that's not necessarily unique to your area, or it might be not, that variety might not be there, because you use that, you said Red Cross, Vinny's, and, something, Anglicare or something. They're great. They're fine. They're fine. They're good examples, but I want you to be very specific, maybe to the context that you're in. For me, down in Blacktown, our example of McKillop Family Services, HSC markers will see that and go, wow, this school knows their stuff. This is a very specific example to their area, and here's all the content. They had a guest speaker come out. The kids then went and developed the hampers for that particular organisation. Someone came out, and when they delivered it's that kind of roll-on effect, not just examples from the textbook. The textbook is very outdated, we know that. Examples that you use in class, but examples from your own context. So that's suave with E for empower. And the last one is RUNFAR. Now, RUNFAR developed a very long time ago, probably back in 2008. I had a great group of kids. I taught these girls from year 7 all the way through to year 11 and 12. I had them in pass. Quite a few of them then took PDHP and CAFS. I had these girls for PDHP that year, but they did do CAFS as well. And I was just watching them, and they kind of had their pen, and they were doing like a little circle on their answer, and like little scratchy. I remember one of them, Megan, had like a little lead pencil. I don't know what she was doing. I was watching her during her trial and a couple of assessments. And I questioned her and said, hey, Megan, what are you doing with that? Like, she's like, oh, Miss, I'm just like, I'm circling the glossary of keyword. I'm underlining some ideas and, putting a little asterisk next to something else where I need to include examples. I'm like, she's onto something. Okay. So I then developed what I call RUNFAR. So RUNFAR has been around for a very long time. If you haven't heard it before, another acronym to remember, but our CAFS Collective members know this off by heart now. It stands for read the question, like read it, reread it, underline, key points, then name them. So like provide like a bit of a definition or whatever at the top, formulate a bit of a plan of attack, answer the question in the lines provided, as obviously that's the guided, the response, and then make sure you reread your answer, like go back over it. So RUNFAR is like a bit of a structure, but all of my kids who I taught for the last, maybe like 14 years of my career knew what RUNFAR was. And I would say to them, make sure you RUNFAR your answer, quickly go over it, write your definitions, have a bit of a plan of attack before you start writing, work out how many lines you need, blah, blah, blah. We kind of went through that process. It was just second nature to our kids. And our CAFS Collective members, especially the ones who have been there from the beginning, they know this, like they get the kids to RUNFAR their answer, their question before they start to put pen to paper. So we have covered a lot today in this very, very short space of time, but let's quickly unpack what I would have done differently, and it's all under the Empower acronym. So the first one is explicit knowledge and understanding of the syllabus. That understanding is the key. Meaning and application, you can know it, but you have to be able to apply the glossary of keywords. The pure paragraph structure, that's like a 101, that sets the kids up for success from the beginning. O stands for option structure is developed right from day dot in year 11. When we teach wellbeing, let's start to look at how does this impact on this? What's that connection? It then exposes the kids the skills that they need for our option for part C in the HSC. W stands for wellbeing is embedded explicitly in the option for part C. That's in our rubric. That's where the marks are. That's a game changer. E stands for examples are suave. We went through that. Unique, etc. applied. And then R stands for RUNFAR, to plan your answer. They're all the things that I wish I had done right from the very beginning 20 years ago. Instead of spending probably about 6 years guessing, not knowing, not having any idea, not being consistent, making it up as I went, death by PowerPoint, spoke at the kids for an hour. This is what I should have been focusing on in my class. And if you're like, wow, Kel, mind blown, or you're like, okay, that went way over my head, there's way too much to cover. Inside our CAFS Collective membership, we literally have anything I develop, I think about this in my head before I write it. Okay, are we doing that? Are we making sure we're giving our members the resources that they need to deliver on that promise, that empower promise? So if you are a CAFS teacher who is in New South Wales and you've either been thrown the syllabus this year or you've been given a class or teaching out of faculty and you have not much confidence or no idea about what you're doing, the CAFS Collective membership is perfect for you. And it's different to professional learning that exists out there in New South Wales because it's ongoing support. It's not just a one and done course, not just a one and done workshop, it's ongoing support, hand holding you all the way through. If you are an experienced CAFS teacher or you've had a break from teaching CAFS or the classroom, or you've gone on mat leave, you haven't taught the current syllabus, the CAFS Collective is also perfect for you because sometimes you just need a bit of a rocket up our bum or, something to add that spark, to bring that spark back to the classroom because our resources are like 20-something years old, 25 years old. If you're in that camp, if you're very experienced and you're like, I love CAFS, I always have, but I just want to have that fresh approach, the CAFS Collective is also perfect for you. And if you're listening to this live or in May 2024, we have doors open to the CAFS Collective literally next week. It is my favorite thing to do. CAFS is my thing. Some of you call me CAFS guru, CAFS queen. That is not, I never call myself that, but I've loved it for such a long time. And I know it like the back of my hand. So if you'd love to join us, head over to thelearnet.com/collective to check it out. And if you're not sure how things work or if you want to get a bit of an insight into Empower and what you can do to set your kids up for success, to save your time, to save your energy, I'm also hosting a 3 free-day training next week inside CAFS Camp. So CAFS Camp, we bunker down for 3 days, we get it done. And if you want to register for that, you can head to thelearnet.com/CAFS Camp. Very simple. Thanks so much, guys. I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.